Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about a case that I think has really captivated the internet. The YouTube mom, Ruby Franke, who was convicted of child abuse, and her business partner, Jodi Hildebrandt. We're really going to kind of go beyond the headlines with this one and look at their relationship using an article from The Independent.
Yeah, it's a wild one.
Yeah, you guys are not going to believe what we found.
Yeah, this is like straight out of like a true crime documentary. Franke's husband is painting a very strange picture of the relationship between the two women. And then you add on what their children witnessed. It's just a whole other layer of disturbing detail.
Well, it's like peeling back the layers of like a really disturbing onion. But before we get into all that, let's just get everyone on the same page. Can you just give us a quick rundown of the core facts of this case?
Yeah, sure. So Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt, they ran a YouTube channel called Connexions. And they were offering parenting advice, lifestyle content, built a massive following, but it all came crashing down when they were arrested and convicted on charges of aggravated child abuse.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Especially considering the content that they were putting out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a stark reminder that what we see online is not always the full picture. They're currently serving sentences of up to 30 years. And Franke's 4 minor children are now in state custody.
Okay, so now let's get to the good stuff. Frankie's husband, Kevin, is spilling the tea about this relationship between Ruby and Jodi. He describes it as uncomfortably intimate, which that raises some eyebrows for sure. So what do you make of that?
Now, it's important to remember that Kevin and Ruby are in the process of getting a divorce. So his perspective could be colored by emotions. But his account of Jodi moving in with them because of these so-called demonic night terrors is wild.
Hold up, demonic? That sounds like straight out of a horror movie.
Right. He talked about how there were all of these like ritualistic behaviors where Ruby and Jodi would place their hands on Jodi's head and like chant and invoke the name of Jesus to banish demons.
So it seems like there was a lot of like intense, maybe manipulative behavior going on.
Yeah, it seems that way for sure. And it escalated to the point where Ruby and Jodi started excluding Kevin from these rituals. And Ruby was spending nights in Jodi's room to supposedly ward off possessions.
Whoa, that's creepy. But he doesn't actually know what was going on when they were alone, though, right?
Exactly.
Like, that's the part that really gets me.
It's this huge unknown. It's probably why people are so captivated by this case. There's this element of mystery.
Yeah.
Intrigue.
Okay, so we have this bizarre account from Kevin. But then we have Ruby's eldest daughter, Sherry, coming onto the scene. She has a whole other perspective, right? Didn't she write a memoir about this whole experience?
She did. Yeah, it's called The House of My Mother, A Daughter's Quest for Freedom. Pretty disturbing. She describes walking in on Ruby and Jodi in a candlelit room filled with this scent of massage oils.
Okay, hold on.
Sherry even compares it to a honeymoon suite.
Okay, now that's some tea. A honeymoon suite, come on.
Right.
That's not subtle at all.
It's not. And she also describes seeing Ruby sneaking out of the same room at 5 a.m. looking disheveled. Sherry doesn't beat around the bush. She flat out says, I do think they were lovers.
Wow. So not only do we have these like suggestive scenes being described by Sherry, but she also straight up believes that there was a romantic relationship between her mom and Jodi. That's huge.
It is. It just adds this whole other layer of complexity to this case. Makes you think, was there something going on that was deeper than just a business partnership?
Right. It's a bombshell revelation.
Yeah.
Especially considering their very public persona. Didn't they openly condemn queerness on their channel?
They absolutely did. Yeah, they built their platform on this very specific, somewhat rigid view of family and morality.
Right.
So if Sherry's right, that's pretty hypocritical.
Totally. I mean, to publicly condemn something while potentially living a completely different reality behind closed doors, that's like a whole other level of dissonance. It makes you wonder why they felt the need to hide this part of themselves and what role that might have played in their actions.
That's a question worth exploring for sure. It raises all these issues of societal pressures, internalized homophobia, maybe even manipulation within the relationship itself.
Definitely uncovered a lot already. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. We'll be right back to delve even deeper into this fascinating and deeply disturbing case. Okay, so we've heard from Kevin, we've heard from Sherry, but we haven't really heard from Ruby or Jodi themselves. Do we have any insights into their side of the story?
No, unfortunately not. Their voices are kind of conspicuously absent from this whole narrative. So we do have to be careful about drawing any definitive conclusions.
Right. Yeah, that's true. It's easy to get caught up in the drama and forget that, there are multiple perspectives to consider.
Absolutely. But at the same time, we can't ignore the evidence that we do have.
Right.
The convictions, Sherry's firsthand account. It all points towards a pretty disturbing reality.
I guess what's really unsettling is that this wasn't just a case of, you know, bad parenting, but something much more calculated, like psychological manipulation.
It's a chilling thought, but a valid one. The way they allegedly convinced Franke's children that they were evil and deserving of punishment, it suggests a deliberate attempt to control and break their spirits.
Right. It makes you wonder how many other families might be caught in similar situations, hidden behind this seemingly perfect facade of, a YouTube channel or social media presence.
Yeah, it really highlights the importance of critical thinking and media literacy these days. We can't just accept everything we see online at face value.
Yeah, that's such a crucial point. It's easy to get swayed by these charismatic personalities, especially when they're presenting themselves as experts on topics like parenting or self-improvement.
Right, they tap into our deepest insecurities and offer us these simple solutions that sound almost too good to be true.
And often they are too good to be true.
Yeah.
This case is a stark reminder that we need to be very discerning consumers of information, both online and offline.
Yeah, we need to question. We need to evaluate, consider different viewpoints, and not just blindly follow anyone, no matter how convincing they may seem.
Couldn't agree more. It also makes me think about the pressure that women face, particularly mothers, to present this perfect image to the world.
Oh, absolutely. Ruby and Jodi, they built their entire brand around a very specific, idealized version of motherhood and family life.
And according to the evidence, it was all a facade. It makes you wonder what role those societal pressures might have played in their actions.
Yeah, that's a valid question. The pressure to maintain a perfect image, the pressure to conform to certain expectations of motherhood, it can be incredibly suffocating.
And when that pressure becomes too much, it can lead to some really unhealthy coping mechanisms.
Yet this case is a sad reminder that behind those carefully curated Instagram feeds and YouTube videos, real people are struggling with real problems.
It's a wake-up call for all of us to be more compassionate and understanding, and to create a culture where vulnerability and authenticity are valued over this fake perfection.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. We need to support each other in being real, admitting our flaws, our struggles, and seeking help when we need it.
So what does this all mean for us, as individuals navigating this increasingly complex online world? What are some lessons we can take away from the Ruby Franke case?
I think one of the biggest takeaways for me is the importance of recognizing red flags. When someone is promoting extreme views, especially when it comes to sensitive topics like parenting or mental health, we need to be extra cautious.
That makes sense. What are some specific red flags that we should be looking out for?
Well, be wary of anyone who presents themselves as having all the answers, or claims to have a one-size-fits-all solution to complex problems.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's also important to remember that, online personalities are just that, personalities. They are presenting this carefully crafted image, and we should never mistake that image for the whole person.
Right, it's like looking through a window. You might see a beautiful, well-decorated room, but you have no idea what's going on in the rooms you can't see.
Yeah, that's a brilliant analogy. So we need to maintain a healthy dose of skepticism. Remember that everyone, even our favorite online gurus, are human and flawed.
Exactly. And sometimes those flaws can manifest in dangerous ways.
Another thing that really struck me about this case is the power of online communities. While they can be incredibly supportive and beneficial, they can also become echo chambers where harmful ideas are reinforced.
Absolutely. It's so important to seek out diverse perspectives and to be willing to challenge our own beliefs and assumptions.
We need to be critical consumers of information, and we need to be willing to have difficult conversations even when they make us uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think that's key. It's easy to surround ourselves with people who agree with us, but that doesn't help us grow or learn.
So the Ruby Franke case serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the importance of critical thinking, healthy skepticism, and the need for this open and honest dialogue.
And the importance of recognizing that what we see online is often just the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly. There's always more to the story than meets the eye.
It's interesting that we've been talking about this pressure to portray this perfect image online, because this whole situation with Ruby and Jodi feels like a case study in hypocrisy. We've got Cherie saying that she believes they were lovers, and then on their channel, they're very outspoken against anything that didn't fit their definition of family values. Yeah, it's very striking, that dissonance. On the one hand, you have these women building this platform on these very traditional values, and on the other hand, you have this alleged secret relationship. That directly contradicts those values. It makes you question their motivations. Were they deliberately deceiving their audience? Or were they struggling with internalized homophobia and societal pressure themselves?
Right, it's like they were trapped in a cage of their own making, afraid to be their authentic selves because they might lose followers or face backlash.
Yeah, it really highlights the dangers of building a persona based on this idealized version of yourself. Eventually, that mask is going to crack, and the consequences can be pretty devastating.
And it's not just online personalities. This is something we all grapple with to some extent, right? That pressure to present this perfect image to the world, even if it means hiding parts of ourselves.
Absolutely. We live in a culture that values image over substance,
Right.
and social media just amplifies that tenfold.
So where do we go from here? How do we navigate this world where appearances can be so deceiving? And how do we protect ourselves from falling prey to harmful ideologies or these manipulative individuals?
It comes back to critical thinking for me. We need to be willing to question everything, look beyond the surface, consider multiple perspectives.
I think it's also about being mindful of our own biases and assumptions.
Yeah.
You know, we all have them, and it's really important to acknowledge those so that we can approach information with a more open mind.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to seek out diverse voices and perspectives. Challenge yourself to engage with people who think differently than you. It's the best way to broaden your understanding of the world and avoid falling into these echo chambers.
This deep dive into the Ruby Frank case has been a wild ride. It's a story filled with twists and turns and hypocrisy, and ultimately, tragedy.
It's a cautionary tale, reminding us of the importance of critical thinking, media literacy, and the need to be discerning consumers of information, especially in the online world.
But most importantly, it's a story about the human cost of deception and the importance of living authentically, even if it means challenging societal norms or facing difficult truths.
Yeah, what stands out to you the most from this deep dive? What resonated with you?
Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts. And we encourage you to continue exploring this case if you're interested. There's always more to learn. And your own critical analysis is invaluable. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep diving deep.